We're ready. We're all set up? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sean Atkins, Chair of the East Point Planning and Zoning Commission, and at this time I'd like to call our regularly scheduled July meeting to order. Staff, would you please sound roll call to establish a quorum?
Commissioner Lovett. Commissioner Bell.
Here.
Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Fan. Commissioner Atkins.
Present.
Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
Commissioner McKnight. Commissioner Maxwell. Commissioner Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like for us to take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioners, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt our agenda as printed.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Maxwell, seconded by Commissioner Lovett, that we adopt our agenda as printed. All in favor sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed sound no. Hearing none, the ayes have it. Our agenda is adopted. Commissioners, at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve our May 17, 2018 meeting minutes.
A motion. Go ahead.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tucker, seconded by Commissioner Lovett, that we approve our May 17, 2018 meeting minutes. All in favor sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. Our May 17, 2018 meeting minutes are approved. At this time, Commissioners, we'll move into new business. Our first and only case on the agenda this evening is 2018 V as in Victor-010-06. Applicant is SA Recycling LLC. Commissioners, at this time, I'd like for staff to sound this agenda item.
Case number 2018 V-010-06, the applicant SA Recycling LLC. The location is 0 Martin Street. SA Recycling is seeking a 4-part variance to increase the maximum fence height, reduce front yard setbacks, relief to parking lot landscaping requirements, and relief from impervious surface requirements.
Okay, thank you. This particular agenda item is a variance and does require a public hearing. It's been duly advertised. At this time, I'll read our rules for public hearings that will apply to this agenda item. Public hearings before the Planning and Zoning Commission shall be conducted in accordance with Section 10-2219 of the East Point Zoning Code and Development Regulations as follows. Persons both favoring and opposing the proposed case will be provided an opportunity to address the Commission. The applicant for the zoning case or the applicant's designated representative, if any, will be entitled to speak first, followed by other speakers in favor of the proposal for a total of 15 minutes. Those who oppose the proposed zoning case will then be permitted to speak for a total of 15 minutes. By majority vote, the Commission may increase the total time for speakers, provided that each side is given the same amount of time. If there is more than one speaker for a side, the chair or the presiding officer may limit the time allotted to each individual speaker other than the zoning applicant. The zoning applicant may reserve a portion of his or her allotted time for rebuttal. Speakers must adhere to the rules of the quorum. Prior to speaking, each speaker shall identify him or herself and state his or her current address. Each speaker shall speak only to the merits of the proposed zoning decision under consideration, shall address remarks only to the Commission, and shall refrain from making personal attacks on any other speaker. The presiding officer may refuse a speaker the right to continue if, after first being cautioned, the speaker continues to violate the rules of the quorum. Hearing this, these are our rules for public hearing. Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to open the public hearing for case number 2018 V as in Victor-010-06.
Move that we open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Mitchell, seconded by Commissioner Maxwell. We open a public hearing. All in favor sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. Is our applicant present this evening, SA Recycle LLC?
Yes.
Please step forward to the podium, state your first and last name and your current address.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Steve Rothman, here on behalf of SA Recycling, 2849 Paces Ferry Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30339. We're here on an application that was sounded that's here before you. It's a four-part variance. There's the first two parts were staff has reviewed it and we agreed with their analysis. We know that from your work session last week, you've been through that pretty detailed, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that tonight. The third part, as I understand it, staff has said we don't need that.
Mr. Rothman?
Yes.
If I may, please go ahead and spend the amount of requisite time for each case as the viewing public that I have privy to our work session last evening, and they may be curious about those things that were discussed.
Excellent, I'll do that.
Thank you.
The third, well, let me start from the beginning. The first variance is a variance to allow a wall that's, and I may have it out of order a little bit, a variance to allow a wall taller than 8 feet. And this is for a storage yard that we propose to have on Martin Street, which is enclosed on two sides by the SA recycling facility that's currently there. The purpose of this wall is to allow additional screening. It would be a solid wall, and the purpose of it is to provide just more visual screening, and it would be a completely opaque wall. When we spoke at your work session last week, the Commission got into some detail about what the wall would be made of, what kind of landscaping treatment there would be, and so I'm going to ask Roger to pass out the detailed landscape plan. Essentially, the landscape plan that we have shows a tree planting plan, trees every 30 feet, canopy tree every 30 feet, an understory tree every 30 feet, a specific number of bushes, and then it lays out the thickness of the wall for sound attenuation issues, and then also the material and color of the wall. Staff has recommended approval of that, and so I think for the reasons in the staff analysis, we'd ask that you support that variance. And as you're looking, I see that all of you are looking at the site plan. The bottom left-hand corner has a lot of the written language that you asked for that specifies what kind of overstory, understory, and bushes and shrubs there needs to be. So there's graphic representation, but also words. The second variance is to allow a reduction in the setback along Martin Street, and for the purpose to do that is to match the existing wall on the adjoining property on Martin Street to allow a more consistent landscaping and, if you will, pedestrian experience on that side of the street. Staff has recommended approval in that we meet the criteria for that, and so we would ask that you support that variance also. The third variance, which dealt with landscape islands, it was determined that that's not required by staff, and so we've agreed to ask that you withdraw, or we ask to withdraw that variance. The final variance is a variance to allow the parking lot to be graveled instead of paved. This was a variance that originally, because this is a storage lot and not a parking lot, that we thought is not necessary, but in an abundance of caution, we have filed that. We believe that the variance is environmentally sound. The request to not pave is actually better for the environment in that it slows drainage down. It actually allows for the possibility of spreading out where the water goes and how it flows, and it reduces the speed of storm water. And so we think it's an environmental plus. The staff has recommended against that, and there are two chief concerns, or really three chief concerns, one of which was compliance with the fire code. And we are happy to have you say approved, conditioned on compliance with the fire code, and let the fire marshal determine what that is. Number two was that watershed management had a concern about compliance with detention pond requirements. Again, I don't think you even have to condition it. We will comply with detention pond requirements. And then the third one was just a more general statement about contamination, concerns about contamination. And in our view, we believe that actually it's beneficial to have gravel, because then whatever kinds of oils or lubricants that drip, and again, these are just trailers, and they're going to be empty trailers, So there's not much to drip. It's not a parking lot with engines. But if there is something dripping, it's more environmentally friendly or sensitive to have it go onto gravel and not be concentrated by rainwater into a detention pond, but to allow it to be diluted by stormwater and to filter through the earth. Roger Cox is our engineer, and he's here if you've got more specific questions about that. Now, you all, at your work session, you had specific questions about the operation of this facility. Where the trailers come from, where do they go? And Bobby Treesh with SA Recycling is here, and he's able to answer or tell you about those operational aspects. And so I'm going to ask him to step up and to describe it. But I wanted to say something that, I guess, to correct the record from last week. Turns out that these trucks, in large part, these trailers, are parked on Lawrence Street. And what they have to do now is, at the end of the day, they drive through downtown, park at Lawrence Street, and then the tractor comes back to the facility. And so by having this storage lot here with internal access only, we're eliminating that useless, needless trip. Now, that's the public benefit. It's also good for SA Recycling because it's logistically more efficient. But I'm going to ask him to come up, introduce himself and Newell. He's been working with the East Washington community. We're not aware of any opposition to this. And so I think I'm going to turn it over to him, but we ask for your support. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Planning Commission members. My name is Bobby Trish. I'm the Vice President and Regional General Manager for SA Recycling. I'm charged with leading the business. I've worked here previously at Newell Recycling for the last 15 years.
Mr. Trish, please also state your address.
Oh,
All speakers
sorry.
are required to state first and last name and address.
I'm sorry, my name is Bobby Trish. The address is 2234 Adler Drive, Atlanta 30319. So, as Steve said, the purpose of putting this storage lot on this property, we've owned this property for 10 acres. It used to belong to General Chemical, and they used to have their settling ponds from their process on this property. We bought it for 10 acres, and then with the recession and everything, we didn't do anything about developing it. Previously, we were looking at putting another recycling process on there about 4 years ago. We had some preliminary meetings with the city, but the economy just was too tough, and we just decided not to do it. Meanwhile, we have a property of about 3 acres on Lawrence Street that we have had leased for several years. We store a bunch of our trailers there, and what the purpose is to consolidate all of those trailers that we have on the south side of town there on our property, where we can secure them and where we can just make sure. We've had some problems on Lawrence Street with break-ins. We've had some problems with vandalism, and we don't own that property. So it really is going to save us some money to consolidate our trailer storage operations on our facility. We're not adding trailers as part of this. This is not to grow. This is not going to add any more traffic to East Point. It's actually going to save traffic as it relates to downtown East Point, because like I said, or like Steve said, every day we've got trucks that are going back and forth between Central Avenue and Lawrence Street, ferrying back and forth trucks and drivers and trailers, and so it's very inefficient. So we hope to do that, and then it will also help minimize what we're doing on Maryland and Willingham Street, because that is where the overflow. Lawrence Street is not big enough for the trailers that we have. So right now they're spread out between Willingham, Maryland, and then the majority of them are on Lawrence Street. We would get out of the Lawrence Street lease and move that all up to our main facility. We've also been communicating in meetings with our neighbors, both East Washington, Jefferson Park, Egan Park, and the community at large, especially or intently over the last almost year now, I think we have a good relationship, and we've communicated to them that we were here seeking variances, and everybody that I talked to said, sounds like a great idea. We support that. Of course, they did ask questions such as, are you going to put up a fence? Are you going to put up some landscaping? And I said, absolutely. We commit to putting up a very nice, solid, opaque fence with beautiful landscaping in front of it, because the baseball fields are right across the street. So we completely get it. We're committed to the neighborhood. We're committed to being a great neighbor. We're not going to be, it's not a recycling process that's going to go on here. It's not noisy. There's nothing like that. It's not any way similar to what we do as far as our actual business. This is one of those support functions. So it's just truly a storage yard for our trailers. And we'd appreciate your consideration, and thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Trish.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other proponents for this zoning case? Any other proponents here to speak in favor of this zoning case? Oh, we have to have opponents as well. Just one second. Are there any opponents here to speak against this zoning case? Anyone here to speak against the zoning case? Seeing none, Commissioners, at this time I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Commissioner Lovett, that we close the public hearing for case number 2018 V as in Victor -010-06. All in favor sound aye. Aye. All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. Staff, would you please sound your recommendation?
In case number 2018 V-010-06, applicant SA Recycling LLC, location 0 Martin Street. Staff recommends approval of concurrent variance part 1 to increase the maximum height allowance of fence and wall from 8 feet as required in section 10-2027.9 D2 to 12 feet. Staff recommends approval of concurrent variance part 2 to reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet as required within section 10-2018 EB to 10 feet. Staff recommends withdrawal of concurrent variance part 3 to grant relief from parking lot landscape requirements as required within section 10-6009, since the site plan submitted with the application proposes reallocation of required landscaping requirements to other locations on the site. Staff recommends withdrawal of concurrent variance part 4 for a grant of relief from impervious surface requirements for parking lots as required within section 10-21547 due to storage not being discussed in section 10-21547, and it only addresses parking.
Commissioners, you've heard from the applicant. You've also heard staff's recommendation. At this time, I'll entertain a motion. And Commissioners, please remember that this is a variance, and so the motion does not need to be made in the form of a recommendation. Let us not all speak at once.
Let me try this since I could not make it to work session, and I know you guys went into deep conversation. I move to approve the concurrent variance part 1 to increase the maximum height allowance of fences and walls from 8 feet as required in section 10-20-27.9 D2 to 12 feet with all stipulations and recommendation by staff.
Okay? We're going to take them all together. So your motion for part 2?
Same
Okay. Part,
as recommended by staff.
okay. Part 3?
As recommended by staff, to withdraw.
Okay. Part 4?
As recommended by staff.
Okay. That is, staff's recommendation is to withdraw. Commissioners, Commissioner Mitchell has made a motion to approve concurrent variance part 1 as recommended by staff. and to approve concurrent variance Part 2 as recommended by staff, also to approve the withdrawal of Part 3, and to approve the withdrawal of Part 4. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Mitchell that this body approve concurrent variance Part 1, approve concurrent variance Part 2, approve the withdrawal of concurrent variance Part 3, and approve the withdrawal of concurrent variance Part 4. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I have a question.
Yes, sure, Commissioner Lovett.
On the fence, I'm not clear as to, you're going to retain the fence that's there, and I think it's a stone fence. So my question is, are you going to continue the additional 4 feet, I believe it is, with that same material? And I'm not sure what opaque is.
You can't see through it, so it wouldn't be like a chain link or a wrought iron. So opaque would be anything that you're not able to see through. So it would need to
Well,
be.
I get the picture of that you can't see through it, but I don't know what the material is.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. There is a stone fence and retaining wall that has been there for a long time that looks nice. Then once that existing retaining wall and stone wall stops, right now it's chain link. We would take down that chain link and put up a new fence made of R-panel, which is steel. It's painted steel. And so it would be probably a color and earth tone so that it blends in, so you have nice green, beautiful landscaping in front of it, probably a tan or a light brown so that it fades away. The goal is not to draw attention to the fence, but rather to draw attention to the landscaping and creating a separation between lives, neighborhoods, ballparks, and business.
And I have.
Mr. Trish, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Commissioner Lovett, I'll come right back to you. I missed that. Can you please repeat
Sure.
that?
So the existing stone wall is part of a retaining wall that's been there for some years. We're not going to do anything to it. Right now, the fence that's from the retaining wall or the stone wall on down around the property is chain link. We would take that down and replace it with a nice, solid, opaque R-panel metal fencing that's painted in an earth tone so that you don't notice it, so that it goes away, and really the focus is on the landscaping, because we'd rather spend really good money on landscaping because that's what people see. So that's the plan. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I just don't go away quite yet.
Okay.
So when you talk about, you mean like the corrugated metal fencing? So when you speak of the metal fencing?
So corrugated to me implies ripples.
Mm-hmm.
This is not that, but it is formed metal. So it is, our facility up in Doraville has this kind of a fence around it. It is typically used for metal walls. So it's not corrugated, but it does have contours in it. Roger, can you describe it better than?
Roger, can you do me better and get to your phone or a device and pull up an example of what you're speaking of?
They come in.
And the reason that I'm being very specific about this is because I want to be very, very sensitive to the fact that this is industrial and it does abut a residential community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to be very sensitive to the fact that it is against a residential community. And so I'm concerned about the type. And
Sure.
that's why I'm asking the questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was my impression at the work session that you guys were going to bring us some examples of what you were going to use.
Yeah, that looks kind of like that's just not tall.
Yes.
That's a similar type of metal fencing. And that's obviously that's only like a 5 or 6 foot tall fence.
Okay. So, okay, it looks a little corrugated to me.
So it does have contours to it, so it's not
Yes.
flat.
Mm-hmm.
But corrugated to me means like you have on a roof of
And the reason I keep saying corrugated, because to me that implies very, exactly. Mr. Trish said that corrugated is not nice, exactly, so that we will not see. Okay.
I'm not going to be happy having corrugated or anything.
I just don't want it to, I don't want it to negative, aesthetically look bad against the residential community, which is my concern. And so that's why I wanted a little more detail, and I thought you guys, like Commissioner Tucker said, we're going to come with a little more detail. Is there something that changed between this Thursday and last Thursday, Mr. Rothman?
Sir. Other than the landscape plan, but in terms of the appearance, I think the best thing we can do is phones right now. Try to come up with additional words.
We're going to do that tonight.
Right.
One of the words is going to be non-corrugated,
That's good.
okay?
Our panel and corrugated are not the same thing. I've been in the steel business all my life, so, let me see.
I mean, 12 feet is very high.
It is.
And so we're talking about a lot of real estate there. And that's why I want to make sure that it looks nice. I just think that you deserve it, the residents deserve it, the city deserves it. So I just don't want anything to be there, just, to put anything that's opaque there. That is a concern.
Excuse me, Kimberly Smith, Planning and Community Development Director. Is my understanding in the work session that you all were going to come this evening with a written and a picture of the conditions that you agreed upon?
That's correct. And so that's what we
Okay.
handed out, was the landscape plan with the written terms. But I think what I understand that we're getting into now is the finish of the fence, of the
Correct.
wall itself. Is it possible to say, and I don't know our panel or whatever it is like you do, is it possible to say the appearance of the wall will be painted so as to appear non-metallic, something like that? Is that,
Would it be easier, now, this came from the applicant, so this is a part of SA Recycle's application, okay? So this didn't come from staff. So I am assuming that if this came from the applicant, that there's something on here that is similar to what you would like to install, is that correct?
the second image on the right-hand column, as I recall, it doesn't have our panel, though.
Is there something that you think looks better? Because I think our goal is all the same. I care about my neighbors, and the last thing I sit down with them no less than every month, and the last thing I want to do is have them say, oh, that fence really isn't consistent with what we thought. Maybe,
We're just asking, and then forgive me for cutting you off, but we are the Planning and Zoning Commission, and when we ask for something in work session and you say you're going to bring it because you're asking us to vote, then we're just asking that when we come to the hearing, that we don't have a page with 7 different drawings and we don't know what you're going to do. So, because, like Sean says, it's a neighborhood abuts a neighborhood, so we just want to be sure that we get it right.
Sure.
And we just can't do it off the cell phone. That's all we're saying.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Okay, understanding that we do not have an example here this evening, is there any type of language that we can put into this recommendation to make sure that we go forward this evening?
There is some language. I feel it's committee work, and we had the work session last week. That's why I wanted something more specific tonight so that this body could go ahead and definitively say yay or nay, and we don't have that.
Understood.
Yes, Ms. Blatch.
So, Mr. Chair, the question is, are the commissioners amenable to any of these renderings that was submitted with the application? If so, we can condition them to choose from one of the renderings on the application.
we are not adamant or committed to our panel. We think it's nice, but if there's something on here that the commission likes better, I'm not opposed to that.
Okay.
If there's something that, if you wanted I don't really like cinder block, but I don't think cinder block looks really nice, but if you like the one that says conceptual screen wall with landscaping, or any of these are,
Okay. Mr. Trish, give us just 1 second,
Sure.
because it is a variance, and once we make the decision tonight, then that is the decision of the body. And so I want to make sure that we get a consensus. I know what I like, but I am just the chair and but one vote, and so I want it to be a democratic process. Commissioners, for me, if given this, based on the examples provided by the applicant, center column top is my number one choice. Do any of you have a preference?
what do you
Yes,
call that? Is that concrete or?
I think it's some type of cementous
I'm sorry,
material.
what was your preference?
The center top.
I'm assuming that you guys have presented this to us as examples of what you have priced out and know that you can do. I mean, we hit you up with one of these and it's substantially and wholly more expensive than the other. for you guys.
Yes, sir, they're all within, our panel is not cheap, so there's plenty of money in there for, in other words, if we don't do the R panel, we can do the one, let's say the one that the chairman likes in the middle, that looks like stamped concrete. I think that's what that is. That's stamped painted concrete. If that's more desirable to the commission, that's fine with us. Because our goal, this is our house. We want it to look nice too.
On that particular one, is it washable?
The one we've been talking about, our panel?
Yes.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is washable, for sure.
I'm going to tell you why I'm asking that. It may sound like a weird question, but I know graffiti is hot. And we have-
If somebody tags it, graffitis it, we will have to paint over it. But we've done that. I've done that plenty of other places in my life, and that's just a part of facility housekeeping and maintenance. And the goal is if somebody does tag it, you go paint it really darn quick. You don't let them enjoy their artwork. So it's like if that happens, it's like we got to go paint it the next day.
Thank you.
So it's not washable like the graffiti would come off. You would have to paint over it, but it's a painted metal surface, so you can easily paint over it.
Commissioner Bell?
That's the only question that I have do have one couple for staff. On 3 and 4, the withdrawals, will they have to bring it back at some point, or will they just continue with the surface that they have?
Before we get to that, can
Okay.
we take care of part one and then go to the others so that
That's
we
fine.
don't conflate those? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bell, is there any particular fence that you have a preference for, style? And
I like the top one, the screen wall, the conceptual screen wall. And to an extent, I like the bottom one as well in the same column. I'm just curious for the top one, since that appears to be artwork, could there be some color added to it to spruce it up?
This one, sir?
Yes.
My understanding is that you have a lot of flexibility as technology is pretty good these days with concrete products, so I think you can make them whatever color you want pretty much. They have coloring that they can add to the concrete.
Okay.
So if you say you'd like a more dark, slightly darker, that looks a little bit light, and I would agree, I'd probably make it closer to like, maybe almost like that photo, like a more, like I said, an earth tone. I think that's, goal is to not accentuate the wall and make it go away and focus on the landscaping, is what architects kind of always tell me.
What is your preference, sir?
My preference is the top center one.
Okay. Commissioner Lovett?
The top center.
Okay. Top center, Tucker? Top center, Maxwell? Top center, Mr. Mitchell? You okay with top center? Okay. So we need to add language that for concurrence, concurrent variance part 1, that the wall shall be constructed in the likeness of the image provided by the applicant, referred to as conceptual screen wall. Top center. Okay.
So are you making an amendment to the motion that's on the floor?
Yes.
I would like to make that as a motion to amend.
A friendly
Concurrent
amendment.
part
A friendly
variance 1, part variance 1.
Concurrent variance part 1.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
That's part of the stipulations and recommendation, right? As far as accepting.
Yes, if we say,
Yes, it's part of your original motion to approve concurrent part variance 1, variance part 1.
okay, thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. And I think it was seconded by Tucker. So, yes, so, and your second still stands. Okay. All right, so that's part 1. Part 2 is reduce the front yard setback. And Commissioners, you're okay with that, correct? Okay. Commissioner Lovett, you had a question about part 3, which is landscape requirements.
Excuse me, I would like to just group 3 and 4 because it's the same question.
Okay.
Since it is being recommended to withdraw this, will it come back at a later date?
Is that what you're referring to, Commissioner Levitt? Can they bring it back at another time?
If they're withdrawing it, will they be able to just bring it back at another time? Maybe I don't understand why it's being withdrawn, and I don't understand the,
Can you
Okay,
explain the
the-
process?
The recommendation for the withdrawal is basically it was determined that they were not needed.
okay. Will they be able to continue with what they have on the surface now, and they don't have to do anything?
Essentially, if you all vote to withdraw that particular standard or that particular variance, that is correct. They would be able to build in accordance to what they're proposing to do.
The gravel?
That's correct.
That's part 4 is the surface, and part 3 is the landscape requirements.
Right.
Yes. Any other questions about part 3, part 4? Ms. Smith, you have a question?
Yes,
Or
part
statement?
3, they submitted a site plan that provided notation and details, and so I believe those details should be part of what you all approve this evening.
And
It's the plan that they submitted, variance tree planting landscape plan, in their notes providing details. There shall be 2 canopy trees every 30 feet of length, minimum of one understory tree for every 30 feet of length, minimum of 8 shrubs for each 30 feet of length. Trees and shrub species will be selected from our approved list contained in Appendix B, Section 10-6023 of the city's Tree Protection and Landscape Ordinance. graphic presentation shows minimum required plantings, trees and shrubs plantings may exceed minimum as may be approved by the City of East Point. And I'll add Department of Community Development,
Okay.
Planning and Community Development, and all other tree density requirements for the site developed will be met.
Right.
Just to
So
add those.
that particular, those notes are part of the Part 1 that deals with the fence. That is the landscaping for the fence. And
Okay.
so, yes, so that is a part of the approval, so that would be approved because it is in accordance to the fence. I think the Part 3 is the landscaping that would be inside of the 10-plus acres where the applicant is proposing for trailers. So that's what, is that clear, Commissioner Lovett? Okay. Ms.
Okay.
Smith, you good with that? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very good. So, Commissioner Tucker, your question was about explaining go ahead if you want to ask your question.
Right, I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 9 years of being on the commission, I could be wrong, but it seems like we've had situations where we've done them separately and situations where we've done them together. So in this particular instance, we've done 4 together. So I just need a clarification that if I'm in disagreement with one part, how would we vote with that?
So if you're, and the Madam Attorney can correct me if I'm wrong. So the motion is to approve parts 1 and 2 and to approve the withdrawal for parts 3 and 4. If you are not in favor of all of those decisions, approval, withdrawal, then your vote would be nay, and then we'd have to have a new motion, and then you would build that motion based on those things with which you're comfortable and the actions that you'd like to see. Did I describe that correctly?
That's correct, Chair. Because this is on the floor as one motion, you would have to reflect the way you vote per that one motion. So if you want to, if the motion fails on the floor, then you can do a new motion and separate it out if that's how you so choose.
Okay. Does everyone understand that? Okay. Are there any more questions, comments, concerns about the motion that's currently on the floor? The motion on the floor made by Commissioner Mitchell, seconded by, Maxwell, seconded by Commissioner Maxwell, is to approve concurrent variance Part 1, approve concurrent variance Part 2, approve withdrawal of concurrent variance Part 3, and approve withdrawal of concurrent variance Part 4. All in favor sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed sound nay. Okay. We've got 4 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Okay. All right, that brings us to announcements. Staff, do you have any announcements?
Yes, at this time, I wanted to introduce to the viewing audience our new Planning and Community Development Director, Kimberly Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be the new Planning and Community Development Director for Clayton County. I have over 20 years of experience working in zoning land use. I'm sorry. Oh, my goodness. Yes, so my latest experience was in Clayton County as their planning and zoning administrator, and so I'm very passionate about urban and regional planning. So I come to you with 20 years of experience of planning and zoning in Metro Atlanta. I've had experience working for Henry County, City of Atlanta, and Fulton County, where I started my career. I did obtain my master's degree from Georgia Tech in 1996, and my undergraduate degree from the University of California at Berkeley. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but I've been here in Atlanta for over 20-something years. I'm married with 2 children and love to travel, love gardening, And again, I'm just so excited to have this opportunity to lead the City of East Point's Planning and Community Development Department, and I'm looking forward to working with you. And again, just excited with all the new projects that are going on in the city, and see a great future ahead. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I'd like to welcome you as well. Any announcements from the commission? Hearing none, commissioners, at this time, I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Commissioner Lovett, that we adjourn. All in favor, sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.